last episode. This time, we're going to be focusing on building out this community screen. As you can tell, if we take a look at our project, we actually have a lot of, just files hanging around with zero organization. And I think we need to change that. Since we're going to be following the MVVM pattern, it makes sense for us to start creating actual folders that represent what the application will look like. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is to create a new folder inside of our project. And I'm just going to go ahead and call this folder screens, right? Because it's going to house exactly what it sounds like. It's going to house the screens. And I'm going to start creating individual folders for each of our tab screen. So for the updates, for the calls, for the community, for the chat, and for the settings. By the way, this is sort of like the semi-completed project. This is not the full project yet. This is just a demo. And today we're going to be replicating or, building this out. So back to the folder thing. The first folder that we want to create is, let's just create a folder for our updates, right? So we're just going to call it updates. And, we're going to create another folder inside of updates. We're going to call that views. And then we're going to go inside of here, the updates tab screen. We're going to drag that into our views. So that's one step down. The next step, we're going to create another folder. We're going to call it calls. As you can see, we're creating a folder for each of the tab screen. We're going to create another new group inside of calls folder. We're going to call that views as well. We're going to take our call tabs, drag it into the views folder. Okay, so we have calls, we have updates, and then we have community. I'm really just creating folders for each of these tab items. And we have, I'm going to call it channel. This chat list is called a channel. More on that later. We're going to go into further more details once we start rolling into actual data and database implementation for the chat. We have a channel, and then we have settings. Settings, if I can just spell that correctly. Okay, and generally, that's pretty much it. Now, when you take a look at our sort of folder setup, things looks a little bit more cleaner. We don't just have random stuff hanging around. So now let's go into our communities. Let's create a views folder. Views. And let's create a community tab screen. So a new file, the SwiftUI file. We're going to go next. We're going to say community tab screen. Come on, boy. Let's go. There we go. Community tab screen. And so if we go into our community tab screen, this is really what we're just trying to replicate today. It looks pretty simple and pretty straightforward, just like the other ones. Looks like we have some sort of a navigation stack, and it looks scrollable, so we need some sort of a scroll view. We have an image, and it looks pretty much like just a VStack. So let's get started by creating the top-level components. I'm going to close out of this, navigation, this left panel. I'm going to resume our SwiftUI preview, and then I'm going to create our navigation stack. So navigation stack, okay, scroll view, that's the next thing I believe we need. And I'm just going to throw a VStack in that bad boy. As usual, make sure this, the VStack has an alignment. Geez, can I even spell alignment these days? Alignment of lead-in. Okay, and then we need an image, which, by the way, if you watched the second episode, I believe, the episode where we actually created the project and we imported our assets, which, again, if you don't have the assets, please check below. I'm going to append it inside of the description for this specific episode so you can download the assets. But inside of our assets catalog, we have an image called communities already. As you can see, it's an image resource. And look at that. It's already good to go. And this is one of the latest Xcode features. I'm not sure which of the Xcode. I think it's Xcode 15 point. I don't even know which Xcode are we in right now. We'd have to check. But you can now use the dot notation, right, to reference your image resource, which is pretty cool. So moving on from that rant, let's create a group. And honestly, right, sure, let's create a group to house these two texts. And, the first one say, stay connected with a community. Okay. And then the next one says text communities bring members together in topic based groups. Any community you are added to will appear here. Okay, that's a lot of typing. All right, so this has a foreground style of gray. Let's do that. This has a, it needs a bigger font, as you can see. So I'm just going to make a title. Nope, that looks too big. Let's make it title 2. There we go. That looks more like it. And we probably should just give this group a padding, an horizontal padding. Let's just give it like 5, Boom, that looks nice and centered. What else do we need? Maybe throw a space in, because there's a space in between these two elements, these two text components. So let's add a space into our VStack components. So spacing of 10. And now we're talking. Okay, the last bit that we need is we have two buttons inside of our VStack, still inside of this VStack. So we're going to come down here, and I'll do what I normally do usually, which is just to create a function. So I'm just going to say community, I'll just call it an example button, some view, and I'm just going to have a button with a text, see example communities. I think that's pretty much what we have here, and then I'll pass that underneath our group, example button. Let's see. Oh yeah, I need to open and close this, of course. I need to create an actual action handler. Attach an action handler to the button. Let's see, we're waiting for our preview. Come on. Okay, I mean, we want it centered, but we can easily fix that. Let's keep going by adding a maximum frame to it, a max width frame, because we want it to be centered. So, and let's give it an alignment of center. I can't remember if the default alignment is center. I believe it is. And you know what? On second thought, this doesn't need to be a separate refactored function. We could just have a button like that, and let's remove this, honestly. I think that looks fairly good. What do you guys think? I think so too. Alrighty. Alright, we do need a final button still inside of our VStack. So down here, we need a button that says new community that allows you to create a new community. So I think I will create a function for that actually. So I'll call it private func create new community button. This is some type view, right? And we're just going to create our button. And the label of our button is going to be a actual label. So let's do a label because it has a plus button. It has a plus icon, and I'm just going to do new community, right? And I'm going to pass in a system image to this label, and all I need is just a plus. And I'm going to call that inside of our function, inside of our view body, sorry. So we have new community button right here. Same problem as the other one. We need to, customize this label component. So let's make it bold. Let's give it a max width like the other guy as well. Infinity, alignment. Let's make it center, right? Let's give it a foreground color of just white. And let's give it a pattern of like 10. Let's create some space in here. And background color of blue. Okay, that's making progress. Let's give it a clip shape of the usual, which is just rounded rectangle with a corner radius and a style. And the corner radius is 10. The style is continuous. So I'm just going to continuous. Let it do that. And then pattern. Look at that. That looks pretty much on point. And what else are we missing? I think maybe if we should add a pattern to the overall scroll view itself. Or, well, not the scroll view. I think the VStack. This VStack could use a pattern. So come down here, throw a pattern, just horizontal, vertical, everything. That looks good. And then, of course, we forgot a navigation title. So the navigation title says communities. And that's pretty much it. So we have communities. All right. We have our community tab screen scaffolding built out. Now let's go back inside of our main tab view, just like we did the other time. We're going to replace this placeholder item view with the community tab screen. So let's run our simulator. Should pop up. There we go. We have our call screen and we have our community screen. Brilliant. That looks pretty good. And that's going to be it for this episode. In the next episode, we are going to start building out this channel list components and basically just the channel tab screen. It's going to be a lot of work, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to learn a lot of cool stuff. And again, remember, we're just getting started with the UI elements right now. Eventually, we're going to actually start connecting these things to Firebase, to StreamSDKs, and actually start binding them to perform the actual functionalities that we want, which is, be able to send text messages, voice messages, photo and video messages, and be able to make phone calls and video calls. So stick around. It's a lot of, episodes left in this series. And if you're having a lot of fun with me, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. It means a lot to me. I'm out. Until next episode.